Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, Positive Philter listeners. It's me, Philip Wilkerson, back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a returning special guest. As you know, every guest is special to me, but he's a returning guest. If you are a fan of the podcast and listen, I'm joined by Coach Matt Alfonso, but he is a coach 2 times now. He's not only a basketball coach, but he's doing a new venture of being a mindfulness and meditation coach. So for the listeners who have not listened to my podcast before, Matt, go ahead and give a little brief explanation about yourself and kind of refer to some of the stuff that we talked about in our first episode together.
Thanks for having me back, Phil. Last time we talked about, it was called For Love of the Game, and we talked about my journey as a college basketball coach. And I'm still coaching basketball. I coach basketball at Bard College, and then I've also started a new journey in terms of mindfulness coaching, which has really been a passion of mine for the last 5 to 10 years.
And you know what? I just thought about this, man. I'm about to call you, Phil Jackson 2.0. I just thought about that. He was all about that too, right? Like, watching just recently, I only got to 2 episodes. I need to watch the whole thing, but with my kids and all. But we all know that Coach Phil Jackson was the Zen master. And I'm pretty sure he studied mindfulness and studied that and brought that kind of philosophy to the game of basketball. So before we go into that, let's go back to the beginning of your journey with mindfulness before, and we'll probably jump on Phil Jackson later. But for the listeners, why you detailed into this new lane?
Yeah, it really started, I was teaching in China from 2013 to 2015. And once I left China, I took a 5-month trip, and really I was finishing China and I was going to get into college basketball coaching. But before I went into it, I wanted to travel and really experience some things. One part of my trip, I went to Thailand and I went to a yoga retreat there. It was called Pure Flow. And that was really my first time doing serious yoga and meditation. Like, I had dabbled in it before in terms of, doing yoga a few times a year, drop-in classes and occasionally meditating. But this was my first time where I was doing it, twice a day. I was learning really what meditation was. I was doing pranayama, which is controlled breathing, and just getting exposed to that. Later on my trip, I went to India and I went to Rishikesh. And Rishikesh is like the yoga capital of the world.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I worked with a meditation teacher there for 5 straight days, just doing one-on-one lessons with him. And that's when I kind of started to get deeper into it and started to get a little bit more serious about it. And then came back to the US and started initially I was really good in terms of practicing with it. And then, as life goes on, work goes on, kind of you get busy. I was a little bit on and off. And then really the last 2 years, I've gotten a lot more serious about it in terms of meditating twice a day and doing longer meditations, and also going to some other yoga retreats and meditation retreats in this area. I go to it's a really cool place in Massachusetts called Kripalu, but I've kind of gone to a couple others like that as well. But I think I was definitely drawn to it as well. I kind of always, even before I started this journey, I think I kind of had that interest towards it. And then getting more into it, I've started to like it more and more. And being around kind of spiritual people, I definitely feel more at home, feel more relaxed, feel more connected to them as well, which I enjoy that as well. Now,
what would you say to the people that when they think of yoga and meditation and all those things, especially with, obviously, I think the stereotype of it is getting lessened, where they think it's that woo-foo, the stereotype, only monks do it kind of thing. What would you say to the people that in American culture, Americanized culture, it's not that, it's deeper than that. And it's also maybe more for the everyday American?
Yeah, I think, you mentioned Phil Jackson before. He was kind of doing it before it got popular. So he was
Yeah.
doing it in the 90s and early 2000s when mindfulness wasn't that big then. I think in the last, say, 10 years or so, it's definitely gotten more mainstream in terms you could kind of just like talk to people on the street about it. But I think also science backs it up. So there's been scientific studies at Harvard and Stanford and all like these reputable institutions where they've looked at the brain and looked at the impact of meditation on the brain. So, I mean, there's legitimate scientific research that backs it up as well in terms of making you happier, in terms of it increasing your memory, increasing your concentration, and kind of all the other benefits that go along with it. And then it's practiced in a lot of settings. Like I was listening to a podcast like a year and a half ago, and they're talking, there was a guy in a Navy SEALs, and he was talking about how like the Navy SEALs use it. So like it's used in like that form of the military, which is like super intense, and they're using it. So it's kind of used in all different realms now.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, you said it right. As I did a very good study, The Science of Happiness by the Greater Good Science Center at UC Berkeley, and all they do is talk about take away the foo-foo woo-foo and like really dial into the science of all these things, like how appreciation is good, an attitude of gratitude really increases your well-being, but definitely a big huge proponent of it is mindfulness. And they had like a whole chapter when I did this online class about mindfulness, which I know your boy needs to work on, but I definitely believe in it. But I want to come back to the one point where you came back and you were living life and life got busy. Was there like a aha moment or a low point of stress that says, I need to bring this back into my life, and really give it a full effort?
Yeah, I experienced some anxiety and depression, and it was in probably 2017, so a couple years after I got back. And going deeper into meditation then, and then also really embracing self-love. And I think those are kind of like the two biggest things that kind of got me over that hurdle, was a combination of mindfulness and then self-love, how I was viewing myself and how I was talking to myself. And I think that's when I also really started to see more of the results and changes from it. I think one thing with meditation is sometimes you don't see immediate results, and sometimes you kind of question how much you are actually progressing.
Yes.
Where then I started to notice more of the results, and it really started to help my happiness and kind of help me get through that time. And yeah, then really from that point on, I've been way more consistent with it. And with anything, consistency is key. And it's just been, but I think going through that definitely helped me in terms of me taking it more serious and me getting into it a little bit deeper.
Now, when you said that you were you said you had to commit, you recommitted to it, and you saw tangible results. How long did you have to commit to it, for one, to start seeing results? And then what were some of the everyday things that you noticed that, wow, this is actually working for me or making my life feel better? So how long was it? And then when that did that not aha moment, but when you started to feel it, what were you feeling? What was some of those things like, wow, this is really making a difference?
Yeah, I think in terms of the first one, in terms of when I started to notice it, it was, definitely a gradual thing. And it was a combination doing the mindfulness, doing a lot of reflection. I was going to therapy at that time and doing a lot of reflection. And then it was really probably after doing kind of the therapy for a few months and then the meditation with it and just doing the meditation every day that I really started to see the significant differences. And I think one of the biggest significant differences for me was that it really made me a lot more relaxed and comfortable in social situations. And the reason why I mentioned that one first is it really just improved my authenticity so much. I was kind of in social situations before, I was just very tense and coming almost nervous. And then through meditation and just becoming calmer, a little bit more inner peace, I was able to just be more authentic in those situations. That and then just noticing my happiness gradually improve as well.
What about did you notice a tangible change in your coaching coaching one philosophy or maybe coaching philosophy or your actual practical coaching on the court with the with the athletes?
When I'm definitely meditating consistently, I notice more patience in terms of more, there's initial stimulus. And then if you're impatient at that time, you're just going to react right away. And a lot of times you'll react in a negative way where you'll be really critical. When I'm consistent with the meditation and the mindfulness, there's a gap in between when the stimulus happens and then when I react to it. And I'm able to really respond rather than react to it, and respond more in a mindful way where it's more of a thoughtful response rather than just a knee-jerk reaction. That's one of them. And then I've also started this past season in particular, starting to work with our guys with mindfulness, try to be a little bit like Phil Jackson. I'm not saying I am Phil Jackson, but kind of teach those guys in terms of how to use their breath and how to be mindful and stay in the present moment as they're playing.
Well, and so we kind of jumped right in. I didn't even ask, what is meditation and what is mindfulness?
Yeah, so I'll start with meditation. Meditation is really it's a journey of knowing yourself on a deeper level. So meditation, it's about understanding your mind. It's about being able to work with your mind as well. And as I mentioned before, it's really a journey in terms of everybody's journey will be different. My journey will be different than yours, and in this understanding of your mind. Mindfulness is definitely connected to meditation. Mindfulness is about being present. So mindfulness is about being here in the now. It's about seeing things as they are arising. These two are definitely connected in terms of mindfulness will help, or actually meditation will help you become more present or mindful throughout the day. So if you're meditating consistently, then you'll become more present, more mindful as you're going through the day. And then there's actually types of mindfulness meditation as well.
So obviously mindfulness is the state of being and meditation is the practice to get there. I mean, if I oversimplified it, let me know. Is there people out there that have like a better baseline of mindfulness? Because, like, for instance, like practice makes you better at something, but, someone's just naturally talented at something and then they get the practice and they get taken to the next level. Is there such thing when someone met people and like you met a teacher and he was like, wow, you're already at a good point, just naturally mindful. This practice is going to take you to the next level. Do you think people have different starting points or set points in mindfulness?
I do. I think depending on their background and where they come from, if they're more open-minded, if they have kind of more of a beginner's mindset in terms of learning new things, I think if they take it less serious in terms of they're kind of more playful with it and more experimental with it, I think that will help you along the way. Going through that though, I think anybody can meditate. I think there are probably people that start at different points and some people that are naturally more inclined to it, but everybody can meditate. I haven't met anybody who just can't do it. I think if you practice it and you're, patient with it and you continue to practice with it, then you definitely can do it.
I love that. So let's break down. I see some, and you did a really good job explaining that. You say that on your IG. What are some very practical ways that you can develop mindfulness, the everyday ways? And you gave some good suggestions to me before the episode, but just to share with the listeners, what are some real, like, this is not this is not crazy. This is not crazy, but this is not super intense yoga retreat level, pay $1,000. These are some things that, you can do right at home. What are some things you can share with the listeners that they can do to increase their mindfulness?
Yeah, a great one that we did talk about already is meditation, and you can start small with meditation. Start with 5 minutes a day, and if you're meditating 5 minutes a day, you'll become more mindful, without a doubt. Another one, which I think is a great for right now, is just going on walks. Yeah. Going on walks. If you can, sure. If you can leave the cell phone at home, like, depending on your life situation, but if you can leave at home and simply just walk around and notice the trees, notice the birds, just be there in that moment and keep yourself in that moment. That's a great one. I've started to do that more recently, and it's been awesome for me.
Yeah, well, I learned, and just real quick, I did learn about the state of awe in nature and just walking around and looking. And that was part of that science of happiness. But yeah, man, that's pretty. I do that all the time, unless I have my kids screaming, and then, but we still going for walks. That's been one of my go-tos during this pandemic is long,
Yeah.
and not just normal. I mean, long walks around. We have a lake, walks. So yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was just gonna say like, yo, walks is for real. Like I've noticed that just looking at the water or looking at the trees and just going for a walk and getting away and walking around and getting some sunshine makes a big difference. So yeah, I'm Philip Wilkerson and I endorse walking.
I'm glad I got your endorsement. Yeah, no, walks are key, especially right now for sure.
Yeah.
Another one is just taking breaks throughout the day. So taking breaks to check in with yourself and to take yourself back to the present moment. There's kind of two ways you can do that. You can either just, if you notice yourself starting to get, really just going too fast, then just take a break, check in with the breath, literally just notice the breath for 30 seconds and breathe in and out through the nose. You don't have to change anything. Just watch yourself breathe. And then the breath will really take you back to the present moment. That's one way to do the breaks. Another, you can, using the cell phone, you can set a couple alarms on the cell phone, set one for noon, set one for 3 p.m. And then at these different times, you just stop, reconnect to yourself, reconnect to that present moment. That's a really good one. The one I've probably been doing the most recently is trying to eliminate distractions. So, social media is a huge one. I've started to use social media more in terms of the mindfulness coaching, but limiting when I use it. So kind of setting boundaries with it, setting boundaries on my phone. This way, mindful is about being present. It's about really doing one task at a time. And if you're constantly distracted, you're getting taken away from that present moment. So if you can set boundaries on your phone or, different boundaries in your life to limit those distractions, that's really big. The last one, which is probably my favorite one, is when you're with people, to be fully with those people. And, it doesn't matter if you're with a friend, a spouse, a child, like give that person your full attention. Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a spiritual teacher, he said the most precious gift that we can offer others is our presence, which just means giving other people your full presence, which, I love that quote. That's actually one of my favorites. But yeah, just being fully with people. I think, just from watching you, I think you do that so much when you're around your family, when you're around Maggie, when you're around your kids, you're fully with them, which is awesome.
Try to, and then my ADD takes over, and then I gotta bring myself back, or aka my wife or my kids my kids will be my bringing myself back to the present. But I love that too, because I thought about that too. I was talking about someone the other day, and they asked me what was my main advice as a parent, and I said your presence is a present. Like, I mean, like, yes, as a parent, as a father, you make a lot of mistakes, but you'll never, I don't think any kid will devalue like someone that just try to be around. Like as a father or a parent, a mother, like you already are at a total advantage in your kids' minds as a rock star if you're around. Make mistakes or not, you're not the perfect parent, but most times people, when they really have issues with their parents, was that their parents weren't around or mentally weren't present or active to them. So I feel like if you're already active, you're already ahead of the game a lot and make a lot of wiggle room. So when you make mistakes, your kids will forgive you easier if they know that you're trying and you're in. And so I really try to work on that one too. And people joke with me. I know I'm on social media. I jump in and jump out like I need to, but I have to be, I like your strategies about the distraction. So when I get on this flip phone, the burner phone, I do that on purpose because I definitely need a physical representation to remind me to be distractionless. Like I know taking the apps off your phone can do it, but I don't. These are Philip Wilkerson endorsing all the tips that Matt is saying in different ways. In my weird, quirky ways, I can see the tangible benefits of eliminating distractions, getting off the social media. I see the tangible benefits of going for walks that you said. I see the tangible benefits of just breathing. Sometimes I had to do that. And sometimes I rub my temples when I do it. You're like, oh my goodness. I don't know if that does anything. Maybe it's a placebo, but that does really help. So all those things. So with all that being said, we are in a very unique situation. Obviously, this episode is going to, we're recording this a little earlier than it's released, but I'm pretty sure when we still release it, we're still going to be in a pandemic. So what is the uniqueness that this pandemic has brought? I mean, maybe the uniqueness as in has brought like a focus or attention to the importance of this during the pandemic? Because I feel like meditation and mindfulness is going to be key for well-being in this time, right? It's a key component. So has the pandemic revealed that to you or made you think about it in a new way? Like, wow, I gotta actually actively put in place this practice during this time to keep my sanity or whatnot?
Yeah, I think, what's been most helpful for me during the whole pandemic is to focus on what I can control. So I think, that's a part of mindfulness is, focus on the present and then, focusing on what we can control. We can control our mindset. We can control our habits. I've been trying to kind of keep those two to the forefront in terms of my mindset being positive, being grateful. And then my habits, we mentioned walking before. That's become a habit of mine, which wasn't a habit actually before the pandemic. And then my habits of meditation as well. That was already there, but being really consistent with it, making sure I'm doing that has been really good for me as well. And then, the mindfulness helps so much with the pandemic because there's so much uncertainty about the future. Like, we don't know what's really school going to look like in September if these, if they're going to be going back, whether it's elementary school or I coach in college, or, people with their jobs as well. A lot of people there's so much insecurity about, they might be furloughed or kind of what their job is as well. And mindfulness allows you to, not replay the past, not worry about the future, but really be here in the now, which I think is, if you can do that, that's great. And kind of the one point I'll make about that as well is you're not going to be perfect with it. Like you're going to think about the future and that's totally fine. It's not about being perfect and never doing it. It's more about noticing that you are doing it, being aware of it, and then bring yourself back and really just bring yourself back. And, I say loving and kind way, which really means just you're being, kind to yourself as you're bringing yourself back. So you're not beating yourself up for, worrying about the past, but okay, I noticed it. In a gentle and kind way, I bring myself back to this moment.
The challenges of everything. What are some of the challenges to this mindset, to the meditation? So like, for instance, I could see a challenge of going on a diet is all the delicious food that's fatting. I don't know. So what are some overt challenges that you've noticed for yourself or when you're trying to help others that they overtly get when they're trying to put these practices into place?
The two biggest that I've seen are, the first one is wondering, am I doing it right or wrong, or just kind of questioning yourself. And, it's really, I've done that a ton over my journey, the last, 5 years with it. And it's really a waste of time because it's not about doing it right or wrong. And like a lot of the practices with meditation are more guidelines. And you can't really break those guidelines. It's not like a hard, fast rule. It's just like, these are suggestions, these are guidelines to do it. And really, as long as you're sitting down with the intention to calm the mind, to go within, then you are meditating. The second one is consistency. And, consistency is key in, pretty much everything. If you're lifting weights, consistency is key in lifting weights. If you're meditating, consistency is key in meditation. Right. And people do have really busy lives. I mean, you have 2 kids, people have really busy work schedules, people have a lot going on in their life. So it's finding time and being consistent with it. And really, trying to block out some time, usually in the morning or at night, and being consistent doing it during that time.
Yeah, practice what I preach. I love that, and I'm gonna work on it. I send you see me. I send you like randomly. I did 5 minutes. I was proud of myself, and I definitely like the structure. I mean, where I work at Mason, they did actually have a really dope program. They still probably do it virtually, but it's not for me. I can't do this. But they had like group things where we have some really good mindfulness practitioners where you go during your lunch break and we all get together and sit in a circle and they guide you through it. Now, I thought that was pretty dope the times I went because, it was, for real, obviously I know we weren't supposed to talk, so it wasn't social, but it was just someone that was guiding me in practice. Like, it was like, I like group classes. I don't know if that makes, like those people that gravitate to CrossFit because they know fitness, they could do fitness on your own, but you go to a class and it's supportive and all that. So I definitely need to find a community because that really is what's helpful. And I definitely like that aspect of someone that's not saying they're better at me or not, but they just got, it was really good. So, that's going to be one of my goals when we back in person, or maybe not, to jump in to do some of that structured kind, because that was really really helpful, especially it was convenient. And I ain't gonna lie about you said it earlier, the two convenience of kids, like finding the habits that work for you, but you have to fit it in that you know can sustain it, right? Like, so I love that. So Matt, let's talk about, obviously you're gonna do it again for your shout outs and plugs, but talk about the now that you become this, you're practicing it, what made you want to start sharing this with others and actually sharing this in a coach mindset, maybe sharing this with people? Like, where was this like, yo, I can keep on doing this for myself, or I feel like I want to start helping others with this? When did that start?
Yeah, I've been really into self-improvement and just personal development for the last 10 years, meditation and mindfulness more the last 5 years. And then about 2 years ago, I wanted to get into some type of life coaching, whether it was going to be like helping people with, productivity or, helping people with happiness. And I was kind of like, do I want to be more general with it? And then at that time, I was really getting more into mindfulness, kind of at that same time, about 2 years ago. And then during that time, I kind of got more and more into mindfulness meditation and thought, all right, I'm going to focus more on this. This is kind of like what I become more passionate about. I think this is really, really helpful in terms of people, and start to coach that. And then it became like gaining the skills and gaining the confidence to teach it. So then I had to kind of like, okay, I feel like now at this point, I know enough in terms of like my knowledge, my ability to convey it, and now actually starting to work with people. And yeah, I've been a teacher and a coach. So I've been a teacher and a coach for the last 11 or 12 years. So I've kind of had that background of teaching. I was teaching PE, I was coaching basketball.
Yeah, and then so I know to keep your game sharp and also just keep yourself abreast, what are some resources that you use to obviously as the teacher to still equip yourself with the knowledge to teach other people? What do you do for yourself to keep up to date on what to teach others?
I work with a coach myself in terms of, I actually work with the lady from Thailand who different than Ali. Ali's a different coach who's on the podcast. So this is Francie, and Francie, I work with her specifically in terms of mindfulness and meditation. So we started, and we'll just go into topics about spirituality. She'll lead meditations, I'll lead meditations. When I lead meditation, she gives me feedback, which has helped me go deeper into this, because she's been, I've been practicing it the last 5 years. She's been practicing it the last 20 years. So it's really been good to learn from her. I listen to podcasts, I read books. I'm reading the book right now is Meditation for the Love of It, and it's by Sally Campton. And she is one of the best, I think, meditation teachers around, just in terms of her knowledge and then also her ability to teach. But that's like almost like a true guide in terms of meditation. She goes into so many different types of techniques and philosophy about it. But that book's been probably the most helpful book I've read on this topic.
And even these people, they're still learning too, right?
For sure.
I wonder how, I always think about that. Like, how does someone that's 20 years in, but they still growing and learning too, I'm sure. So it's like always a pass down method, right? You learn from someone, you keep on passing it down.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like she was talking to me about having a beginner's mindset, and like she has a beginner's mindset after 15 or 20 years, where just having like the beginner's mindset, you got more room to grow. And that's one of the things with meditation. You want to keep that beginner's mindset so that you're able to develop your meditation and grow more and get more benefits from it. All
right. Well, we hit a really good part of our episode, but it's not over until we do our shot for shot portion. You get to ask me a random question. I ask you one. Who want to go first?
I'll go first. I'll ask you one. What's a goal that you have for yourself that you're trying to achieve, say, in this next year? Is there anything in particular that you're really trying to accomplish?
Yeah, well, I do a practice, and I know I'm pretty quirky, but what I do every year is I write a letter to my future self at the beginning of the year, and I seal it up, and then I read it back and see if I said I did what I was going to do. And I've done it 2 years in a row. And it's kind of funny because sometimes I'm way off the mark. I'm like, I legit didn't do one thing. No, let me phrase. Not the whole list, I'm not off the mark, but some of the bullets I get, like you will do this and this, and I don't hit everything. And then some I'm like, oh my goodness, like I rocked it. I actually did that. So I wrote my letter to myself, and some of the stuff is just stuck in my brain. Some of the things I might forget I even wrote on that letter. Like, did I really write that? But one of the things I wrote on my letter is I'm going to do a TED Talk. I don't know how, when, where, what stage, who, whatever. I'm getting on a stage in front of people and I'm talking in front of an audience. The message is going to convey. I don't know. I randomly have like, I'll get an idea and I'll write it in my phone and I'll like try to develop a bullet points or like how to do a speech around it. But I'm going to be in front of people. I don't know. I just feel like I have a voice that I want to share. And I like being on stage. So I don't know. That's one of my goals. And obviously with the pandemic, that probably presents a new challenge. Maybe there won't be a stage to be on because you can't get in front of people. So I'm ready and prepared to do kind of that same audience mindset in a virtual space, like a Zoom. But that is one of my goals. And that with one of my goals, which I know I ebb and flow. Like when I was all about deadlifting, I was deadlifting. When I'm all about public speaking, I'm trying to practice. I do Toastmasters, but that's I would say in my letter to myself, that was one of the goals I set. And I keep on trying. I keep on practicing. I told you this a long time ago. This podcast was practice for me. Just practice to be able to talk in front of people. So that's it. That's one of mine. Awesome. All right, I got one. Obviously, what is one of the things you want to do, like when life gets back to a normalcy? Because as someone told me earlier, there's no such thing as a new normal, because that's just what it like. When you say a new normal, you're saying like it's like something completely changes in like a new reality, but that's just the reality of that time. Like whatever we change, like maybe the future we all wear masks. That's just normal. It's not no new normal. It's just that's the current state of the reality it is. But irregardless on that random tangent about new normal and why this person don't like it, what is one of the things you would like to do when we get back to some form of normalcy? Like what is something you look forward to doing?
I think the biggest one for me is travel. And I didn't realize kind of how much I missed travel until this happened. And I had 3 trips planned. I was going to Tony Robbins event in California in March. Okay. I was going to Kripalu in Massachusetts in April. And then I was going to Thailand in May to go to that actually same yoga retreat. Okay. And all 3 of those got canceled. So, I think once this does calm down, it's going to be going somewhere, whether it's, there's a place I go to in the Bahamas, and maybe going there or going to Thailand.
I know that right here.
Yeah. I think
he's stunting on us. I'm just gonna go to Thailand.
I mean, I don't got as much restraints as you. I don't have tie down with kids.
I'm about to send you that junk called Ben app. It's called Ben. I'm very curious to see what percentage of the world you've been to already. One of my fraternity brothers is already like hit like 20% of the countries in the world.
Oh, wow.
Pretty dope. I looked, I'm only at I think I'm at like 10, 11%. I'm very curious. I want to see where I know you could check off mad places that you've been. You're the international stunner right there. He stunned on me real quick. Thailand, jeez.
I just got these names, man. Thailand, India.
But life is back to normal. I'm going to go to Australia and Thailand. And, just Massachusetts too. I could drive that one. Like, okay, big baller. and be honest, I agree with you that like traveling domestically for me is big, and it's not the same. I could look at a picture of a country, but there's nothing like actually feeling the air and being there. Like at a new place. I love that. I love traveling too, but. It's not the same. You could hold me a picture and say, here, my friend Zoom me. He in California. He showed me like panoramed his place and, did like the little like 360 view and all that. That don't feel the same. It don't. My mind knows I'm not there. Like,
There's definitely a certain freedom to it as well in terms of just like being able to go somewhere and just like going and exploring, which, the pandemic has like taken that from us, which, at least for me, it's kind of like made me appreciate how much I do like that stuff.
Yeah, and you're like my fraternity brother. You do a lot of traveling solo, somewhat, right?
Yeah.
He does it completely. Like he just roll up there and he goes and explores. For the listeners, this is another question. I'm just curious about your mindset. Like, when I have not, I don't think really traveled alone before. Like, like if I went somewhere new, it was for a conference. So I'm not really alone. Or have you ever just traveled alone, no plan, and just dropped yourself off at a new place? When you did that, what did it feel like to do that? And how do you just survive a trip solo dolo? Because I don't think I literally can close my eyes. I don't think I've ever been to a place where I didn't know anyone and I was just dropped off. Like it was always like a family, a cousin, a friend I'm visiting, a conference that I'm attending. It was always that. There was never no just random spontaneous solo trip. I have done spontaneous trips, but the spontaneous trip was with someone else. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just asking, have you ever your experience with that?
Yeah. I think you could either kind of like plan it or just kind of like go like free, free spirited and go with the flow. I probably, somewhere in the middle, probably more towards planning. But once I go to those places, I also try to like find a community in terms of find people.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was traveling by myself before, I would stay in like hostels. And the one thing about staying in a hostel is you're staying with other solo travelers. So you'll meet people, then you'll be able to travel with them and kind of like go sightseeing. So if you're going to see, the main sites in that city, you can go with a few people and have like people who enjoy it with. Now what I've done is go more to like these yoga retreats. So I'll go by myself, but then like I'm going somewhere and it's almost like kind of like a built-in community there. Yeah. So like other people that are coming to that retreat that have, the same interest and that you can kind of like bond with just because the, same interests and passions.
I love that. Well, that was a great note. Mentally, I'm taking myself to Thailand one day. Mentally, I don't know if I'll have the money to go. Physically, you're going to go to Thailand for real. That's pretty dope. But this is the part of the show, as you know, shout outs and plugs. Definitely, shout out all the people you want to show some love to. But then plugs, please let the listeners know where they can find you, what your business is, what you're doing, how they can contact you and use your services. All that stuff we'll also be putting in the show notes so you can follow it with Matt and get some help with the mindfulness and the coaching. So the floor is yours, stage is set, shout outs and plugs.
First shout outs to my family. I've spent so much more time with my parents during this pandemic. So to my mom and dad, and then to my sister Lauren and her husband Matt. They have 2 children. One of them is 2 months old. So I've kind of got a chance to watch her grow over the last 2 months. And I've actually been with her more than like half of her life. So it's been kind of a cool experience. But they're, my sister Lauren and her husband Matt are wonderful parents, and it's been good seeing them and also their children. And then shout out to the people that have helped me in terms of the journey. I work with Allie Lampert, was out show on your guest, and she's a coach of mine who's really helped me. I'm working with Francine now in terms of the mindfulness and meditation, and she's really helped me a lot. So the people that have kind of helped me to be in this position. In terms of where people can find me, I'm on Instagram the most. So Matt Alfonso with the number 1 after it. And that's, you could follow me on there, send me a DM. I'm doing a coaching program there. So you could DM me about the coaching program that I'm doing. But that's, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn as well, but Instagram's kind of the main one that I'm posting most of my content and kind of on the most right now.
And also, Matt, I think you mentioned that you have a program. Can you give our listeners a little bit of what that entails, the program that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing a program. It's called Mindful Living. So it's an 8-week program. It's 8 weeks of one-on-one coaching where I get on people with, over Zoom or FaceTime and talk with them for an hour once a week and for 8 weeks. And then also have different videos and have different documents to help support as well. But it's really designed to help people gain clarity in their life, to help them increase their mindfulness and being more present, to increase their self-love, and then to shift their mindset more towards gratitude. And the program's also, it's, geared towards each individual person, but those are kind of the main objectives of it. But if you are interested in doing it, would offer you a discount, especially if you're, tell me, listen to it on the show, and we can talk about it and see if it's a good fit. But you can, definitely send me a DM on Instagram, and we can set up a call to talk about it.
Excellent. And we'll definitely, as I said earlier, have the contact information in the show notes and all that stuff so the people can follow up with you, because it's definitely dope. And as you say, I definitely endorse all the things you do in my crazy life, all the tips that he's sharing, all the suggestions. I try to infuse it as best I can to live a more mindful and happy life myself. What's especially important during these turbulent times is that I definitely like what you said. The only thing I can control right now is my mindset and my habits. And so I definitely try to infuse that and listen to the things you're doing and see what you're doing and try to create some healthy habits and create a healthy mind, because that's all I got I mean, not all I got, but in this time, that's so important, in these walls, my mind needs to be strong. So listeners, follow up Matt, get his attention, DM him, follow up with him, check him out. I definitely appreciate it. Good friend of mine, also just a really good guy. He's definitely here to help. Positive Philter listeners, if you like this episode, please share it with your family and friends. If you have a question for the podcast, either leave it in the comments or the question form, or call the hotline 571-336-6560. Sometimes I put some voicemails on my episodes, who knows. And just keep on listening, keep on sharing. Positivity is something that we all can do. It doesn't take a grand change. We can all infuse it, similar to mindfulness and meditation, by just building up habits to make ourselves live better and live a more positive life. Thank you, Matt. I really enjoy having you on the show. We'll check you out later.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Phil.
Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity of Movement. Thanks for listening.